Why is recorded in front of a live studio audience.
Good news for, I guess, strippers. I don't know who else. Strippers in North Hollywood have unanimously won their union vote.
Nice.
17-0. So they will be off the picket lines and dancing for your.
Pleasure.
Can you imagine their celebration party when they got the vote in?
Be fantastic.
So very happy strippers unionizing.
Why not?
Exactly. What do we want? And when do we want it?
Exactly.
So I thought you would be just, I think all of us, the nation breathes a collective sigh of relief.
I do. I'm in full support of that decision.
I have not seen a list of their sort of demands of club owners. I'm hoping it involves sneeze guards and that buffet.
Oh, God. Are the
There's gotta
buffets
be.
still there?
I would
I feel like
assume
they got
so.
cleared out.
No, there's one that I see the billboard every time I drive to Boston, outside of Hartford, that they proudly boast that they have a buffet.
But they still have a buffet.
So, it's not like best crab legs in the East, but.
Well, it should be, though.
It should be, yeah. You never see them on that, like, Best of Hartford.
Really?
I don't think so.
That's sad.
Yeah, you don't see the James Beard Foundation swinging by just to try everything.
This is Why, with your hosts, Heidi Hedquist and Luke Poling.
And then the other thing, which you tell me if there's a connection, the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile, they're changing their name. Yeah.
Why? What are they changing it to?
It is going to be called the Frankmobile.
Why? Because people make fun of Wienermobile?
They say the new Frankmobile name, quote, pays homage to the new recipe for its hot dogs that are coming out. So this could be like the clear Pepsi of 2023. So no longer will you get to show the children the Wienermobile. That's
sad.
It doesn't really roll off the tongue the same way.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah. Very sad children chasing after a giant hot dog.
Yeah, that's actually very disappointing.
Yeah, well.
Are they going to have to change it at the Henry Ford Museum?
I would assume so. Or maybe they could previously, AKA.
Right. Can it just stay because it was already?
Hopefully. They're not going to repaint it and write Frankmobile on. It's got to stay Wienermobile.
Somebody I know, was it a friend of Randy's?
That sounds about right.
There was a job where you drove it around for a year and did all the PR and stuff. And I think it was a friend of hers. And he had that job for a year.
Wow. And Randy didn't get that.
It didn't get that interview set up.
Get the call back?
No. She didn't get the interview set up for us, is what I was thinking.
Yeah. Well, either way, she's failed. And that's why we voted her off.
We did not vote her off. She's the best one we've got.
Oh, that's really saying a lot.
Yeah.
How did you get involved with British Naturism? I can't even say it. How did you get involved with British?
For you.
Thank you.
Naturism.
Naturism.
How did you get involved with British Naturism?
How did I get involved? Okay, it's a 3-step process. In fact, it might be a 6-step process by the time I'm finished. So I was about 14 and I went with my parents to the west coast of France. We had fairly low-level holidays in caravan parks and bed and breakfast back in the UK. And the thing that I remember most of all was the rain. One doesn't think about it when one is a child, but my poor parents, that was their summer holiday. And things started to open up. And one day they announced that we were going to be driving down to the west coast of France to take a tent. Nothing to do with naturism. It was just a tent on a caravan camping site, camping park. It was one of those where you got there and the tent was already made up. There were some beds in it. There was a little cooker. There was cutlery. There were chairs and tables. You didn't have to take your own. But the great thing was that when we walked through the beautiful pine forest to get to the beach, essentially on the left-hand side of the path, people had swimsuits on on the right side, they didn't. And at 14 years old, I couldn't quite believe what I was seeing. And I'm sure, I've said this without any kind of hesitation, I'm sure at that age, there was a huge amount of testosterone sloshing around my teenage body. But I promise you, the main thing was I wanted to be part of it. We saw the same again the following year in a slightly different part of France. And then probably 6 or 7 years later, when I was on my first adult holiday without my parents, I was on a Greek island, and we were directed to the best restaurants, the best bars, the best tourist sites, and also the best beaches. And one of the beaches that happened to be where the local naturist population hung out. I mean that literally, actually, don't I? That's where they. So it was a bit of a no-brainer. And well, here I am 30 years later talking to you about it. So now, as far as British Naturism is concerned, I did a legal job when I first left school, which transmuted into a kind of a marketing thing. And I eventually did a master's degree and ended up in one of the top law firms in London. And then they made me redundant. And I'd been talking about in my own head about what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I was 39 at that point. And I thought I'd like to earn my living somehow in naturism. Seemed a bit of a dream, really. But I'd been a member of British Naturism, which is the organisation in the UK for naturists and naturist places. I can tell you all about the kind of things we do if you'd like to hear it. And I effectively knocked on the door and said, right, I'd like to work for you. I think I can help you. And to my amazement, in fact, again, I don't need to tell you what they said, because here I am 20 years later talking to you about it. So there you are. I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So at 14, I'm assuming you were just sitting on the clothed beach with your parents, kind of looking over there going, that looks like fun.
Yes, in actual fact, I think we were actually on the right hand side. I mean, my my father. Maybe there's something genetic in it. My father was quite keen, if hesitant, because it's something quite unusual. Yeah, I don't remember staring across the sand and wishing I was somewhere else. But of course, I had my brother and my sister with me, so I think at that time it was the last thing I was actually going to do myself. But but it was quite instructive. And one of the things that I always remember was that there were families in a few generations. I'm not just talking about a couple who were in their mid-20s or a family necessarily. I'm talking about grandparents, their children and their children. I never imagined I never thought about seeing my own grandmother naked, let alone over lunch on the beach. It seemed like a really weird thing. So, but very peaceful, very tranquil. And as I say, my main thrust was I want to be part of it. That's for me.
Well, naked people are just happier.
You speak as if you know from personal experience.
I do. I do. My family spends a lot of time in St. Martin at Kupakoi Beach, and we've been to Club Orient and things like that. So I have many naturists in my family, and yes, naked people are much more fun because they're happy. It's hard to be in a bad mood.
Exactly. It's almost like it's so very easy to be evangelical about it. I try hard not to, but and I'm sure again I have kind of tempered this euphoria feeling by thinking if I was into motorcycling or kayaking or even the Grateful Dead, whatever it might be, you do get excited about it, and mixing with people who enjoy that same thing always brings that sense of fun, community, togetherness. It's I'm sure we're not unusual in that sense. I think what happens is, because it is unusual as far as society is concerned, what people have is that added, let me think of a word, it's not really a benefit, but that added feeling that it's something that they don't normally do. Yes, so I get on my motorbike. I don't, by the way, this is just an illustration. I drive my motorbike and then I meet other people with motorbikes and we all have a lovely time together. The thing is that in daily life, you don't ride a motorbike, i.e. you don't be naked until you are in those places with other people. So perhaps it takes it up a level. And I think on the back of all the social conditioning, that's a phrase I use all the time, social conditioning that says we must be clothed, modesty, all of those kind of things, to realise that actually, A, you've been lied to all these years, and B, the feeling that you get from it, it's almost like almost like tasting some brand new food that is fantastically delicious and good for you. And yet for years and years and years, somebody has told you, don't eat it. That's what it's like. You've kind of discovered this amazing thing. Now, the other thing is that for all of that euphoria, it's actually quite dull. It is literally taking your clothes off, sitting on a beach. You know, you're not doing anything. One of my colleagues many years ago used to say to people, if you go to a naturist place and you see something you've never seen before, shoot it. At the end of the day, we're sitting around reading books, drinking beer, having a disco, doing a yoga class. There is nothing that we do that other people don't do. And as you say, sorry to get back to the point you raised a minute ago, Heidi, is people are happier, people are more relaxed, people are more willing to be friendly, sociable. It brings about that kind of tranquility, that kind of, it's a bit of a cliche to say at one with nature, but it is almost like that, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It is. It is. And people don't tend to talk about the controversial things. Like people have very deep, interesting conversations, but I've never seen, I know people with very differing opinions on things who don't go to battle when they are in that setting. They're just talking about having fun, like you said, who's buying the next round, things of
That's
that
right.
nature.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
What time does the next yoga class start?
Exactly.
Who's coming with me for a swim? You're right. It's
Yes.
it's like being on a permanent holiday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we all get a lot out of it. Now, I'm going to make a personal comment. You've chosen to be here with your clothes on this afternoon, even though
Yes.
you're one of us.
Yes.
Is that a conscious
Yes, because I'm in an office building right now.
right?
It's quite
Okay.
frowned upon in Metro
Yes, I mean,
Detroit.
actually, the most interesting thing is that actually the only way to find out what the reaction is to do it, but then it might be too
Right.
late, mightn't it?
Yes, that would probably
might
end this show and a lot of other things. Or maybe it would boost our numbers. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I think let's be positive and think about the latter. But
Yes, yes.
So how did you find British Naturism, and was it sort of like oh my God, these are my people, quite literally, because being British and naturist those don't always seem to go well together,
No, absolutely.
socially and meteorologically speaking.
Yeah, well, in fact, let's take the latter. That's another thing that I talk about regularly. You know, we do have issues with culture, minor issues with politics, all sorts of serious things. But actually, the biggest challenge for me in this world is the weather. I have to confess, I have taken my clothes off in order to talk to you two this afternoon because actually it's quite cold here at the moment, you know, and although there's plenty of naturists and nudists all around the world, the terms are interchangeable, really, you know, who will try and be naked all the time. I feel the cold and, I'm not going to make myself feel uncomfortable. So it's a good question. I often wonder how I did find British Naturism because these days with the internet, everything is out there, isn't it? You know, everything is available to you at the flick of a couple of keystrokes. So the straight answer is, I don't know. I don't know whether I looked up in some telephone directory or whether there was some gazetteer at the local library. I've no idea, but I did. And you're quite right. And in actual fact, the way that I began with it was after that experience that I had on the Greek island. One thing I really didn't enjoy was putting my clothes back on at the end of the day. It was a really lovely, beautiful sandy beach. It was a 10 or 15 minute walk from our accommodation along a beautiful thyme scented, pine fringed footpath, you know, back to our accommodation. And getting there in the morning, I couldn't get there quick enough. Coming home in the evening, oh, the clothes were sticking to me. And I got home and I thought to myself, I wonder if there are places around the world where you don't have to put your clothes back on. Is there a hotel or a campsite that might be right on the beach? So what I did when I got home was to contact British Naturism and write to them about this beach because they were seeking information about nice places to go. There's another story for us to talk about later, if you like, about the law and the law in different countries. You know, and one of the issues is that sometimes you don't know that you can be naked on a beach because no one else is. But if you get there first in the day and you strip off, then it becomes a nude beach. So I wrote into British Naturism to say, you know, this is a beach I've been on that you could put on your list. And by the way, what else can you tell me? And of course, it led to me joining their organisation. And makes me laugh when I think their quarterly magazine used to drop through my letterbox every few months. And I used to look at it and think, this isn't very good. I could do better than this. Isn't that a very arrogant thing to say? I could do better than this. And so all those years later, when I eventually took over their marketing and somebody said to me, do you think you'd like to take over editing the magazine? It was like, yes. I got there, imagine that dream and it will come, so that's how it came about. That's how it was a member for, I don't know, 10 years or so, before I ended up working for them. And just to be clear, I don't actually work for them. I have my own marketing consultancy. Now, I think I'm unique in the world because all of my clients are from the naturist world. I don't know anybody else anywhere in the world that does marketing just for naturist people, or runs a consultancy just for marketing for naturist people. So I do have a few other clients which are holiday resorts in the main. That's what I've been doing to earn my income for the last nearly 20 years now.
That's good.
You mentioned the legal side of things, and we should discuss this. We had a guest on about 6 to 8 months ago who was petitioning the Nantucket local board, to make the beaches in Nantucket topless. And she found, going back into the laws, that even up until I think it was the 20s, that even men were forbidden from being topless on the beach. And they've since been able to overturn it. The governor has signed it into law. Talk a little bit about that legal side of things, because you are quite literally planting your flag in the ground if you decide to make a beach a nude beach without the legal authority to do so.
Yes, to a certain extent, that's true. I can't speak for other countries. I know a little bit about it, of course, but let me talk to you about the UK. And if you think about it, if you actually think about it and make it a sort of a logical, linear statement, how can you legislate for what people wear? I mean, are we really going to say you can't enter this subway carriage unless your tie is all the way done up to the top? Or, if you're going to, next week when I go and visit the Guggenheim or something, I have to have on a particular color of shoe. I mean, it would be completely ridiculous, and you do see people, late at night snapped by the paparazzi wearing the tiniest little skirts, the tiniest little boob tubes in the freezing cold coming out of a bar in a city, and you think that's inappropriate because they're going to be cold, but no one says anything because we're all allowed to do what we like. So I don't know how any country anywhere in the world can actually decide that being naked is against the law, for those reasons and many others. And of course, if it is, what the police should be doing is visiting all the maternity wards in the hospitals and rounding up all those newborn babies.
It is indecent. Yeah.
This is how we all are. And how can anybody say, it's indecent? It's how I was born. What am I supposed to do with it, So anyway, in the UK, I mean, yes, before the Victorian era, which I suppose is kind of mid 1800s, the whole idea of purchasing a special suit of clothing just to put it on to go and swim, to get it wet, in other words, would have been as laughed at as we are laughed at. We're not laughed at as much as we were, but you know what I mean, as we are now, for deciding not to wear that special set of clothing. And what we've got is a situation where in the early 2000s, just before I started working for British Naturism, which we call BN, by the way, that's the shorthand. So a team of people from BN and various other naturist organizations and groups of friends got together and kind of made a good lobby of the government, really, when they were doing what became known as what became called the Sexual Offences Act of 2004. And paraphrasing madly, this is not what it says, but I'm paraphrasing madly, naturism is excluded, okay? If you just take off your clothes because you want to feel the breeze on your skin, you want an all-over tan, you want to swim with no clothes on, that is not a crime. It becomes a crime if you set out with the intention of alarming or distressing people. Now, over here, that's really what we call flashing, a sexual act where somebody, particularly a man, well, in fact, In practical terms, only a man can do it. Gets his bits and pieces out because he wants to upset somebody or get a sexual thrill for himself. So obviously that's not what naturist people are doing. Now that was really a good move, and we all worked really hard to make that happen. It didn't immediately make a difference because there's still this whole culture of modesty and stiff upper lip and being seen to be doing all the right things, and how your morals must be questionable if you want to walk around with no clothes on, and what other people might think about, and we're just talking about you, Heidi, in the office. I'm sure most of the people probably wouldn't have a problem, but convention says, oh, there's a naked lady there. In fact, that's how you are twice a day when you have a shower or go to bed or whatever. I know I am, so it's nothing really unusual, but that's the convention. So bringing us forward, we've ended up in a situation we've had to keep pushing, keep lobbying, keep making mention of things that nowadays in this country, it is not a crime to be naked anywhere in public. Okay, it has to be proved that you set out with that intention. That's the key word, intention, to alarm or distress somebody. Okay, we still have our problems. We still get people being arrested or at least spoken to by the police. We still get news reports saying the police are looking for this naked man that walked through the forest. What a waste of all their time when there's proper crimes. So what that actually means as far as beaches are concerned in this country is that every single beach is a nude beach, because there isn't a law that says they can't be. What you tend to find with naturist people is that we've got that sensitivity, and we also enjoy that kind of feeling of fellow feeling, being with our like-minded colleagues. So what you tend to find is that there are beaches that are known. It doesn't matter whether they are official. I hope I've made it clear. We don't need it to be official, but traditional places, well used, historically popular places for nude bathing. So there's nothing stopping anybody going and being nude on a really busy beach, but we tend not to, because people don't always understand. People do have that kind of knee-jerk reaction. But as time goes by, we are getting more and more accepted, if you like, where people are finding it much less of a problem. And I don't want to digress onto something else, but I'm finding in the work that I do with the media these days, back in 2004, when I began, if I said to a journalist, because I always ask them, before I start this conversation with you, for all I know, you've been a naturist for 20 years. And they used to say, oh no, not me. Whereas now 8 out of 10 say, yeah, I love it. I've done it. I would like to do more. Tell me an event I can go to. So the taboos are coming down. Now, in lots of other countries, and certainly in countries in, let's take the Middle East and Asia, you're not allowed to be naked anywhere. I mean, probably even in your own home, and I don't really know why. But things are different in lots of, I know you have difficulty in different states.
Yes, we do.
Don't take your pants off in Arkansas, but you're probably all right in California, So
yeah, another reason to avoid Arkansas.
Yeah,
exactly. As if we needed any.
Right.
So, but let's get off the kind of boring legal stuff. You mentioned some of the events that BN offers. What sort of things do you do to increase the awareness of it, but also just for everyone to have a good time?
Have a good time. That's right. The events are the backbone of what we do. I get told quite a lot. I get lots of messages from members very regularly. I don't know if I've said what I've ended up doing. My role within British Naturism, as well as being the spokesperson and the media and PR, is that I'm effectively in charge of all of the marketing. So all of our strategies for growth, for revenue earning, for bringing in new members, for ensuring that members stay with us once they've joined, all that kind of thing is down to me. As the years have gone by, we've managed to bring in other people. Somebody else now looks after the actual running of all of our events. But I get messages all the time with people saying, oh, have you seen this organization? Look how many millions of members they've got. What are they doing? And one of them, for example, is the RSPB, the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds. But you don't need anybody to be a bird watcher. Everybody can join the RSPB, get a little handbook and a pair of binoculars and sit in their own garden. What typifies what we do is that social context. Yes, of course you can be nude on your own, and of course you can enjoy it. But that's what we want to do, is to bring people together and enjoy that feeling with their fellows. And so that is the backbone of what we do. And there are plenty of opportunities. So let's start with some of the big ones this summer. And you're very welcome to come come, by the way, is a camping week called Nudefest. Now, we missed a couple of years when we had the pandemic, but it's not far off. So 15, 16 years old, that one now. We take over a regular caravan park in a county called Somerset in the West Country. And I mean, they have very few facilities. They have a few toilets, a few showers, and a few electric hookups. But we pimp it and we make it bigger, and we get 650 to 700 people. We have a couple of marquees, and the activities that we have, I mean, it really is great fun. So during the day, there'll be some craft making. There'll be workshops. I do talks and such like with people. We'll have a whole load of wellness stuff. There's massage tents. There'll be yoga classes throughout the day, meditation classes, 2 or 3 different types of fitness class. There's catering, you can buy food and drink. It's not like a festival with rock bands or anything, but then come the evening, it really turns into something rather extra special. And we do have live bands, lots of music, comedy nights, karaoke sessions, you name it. And the great point is that you don't need clothes from the minute you arrive to the minute you depart, subject to the weather, of course. And it's become, a really, really fabulous thing. I love it. And, we all thoroughly enjoy that. Looking forward to that this year. We take over some hotels for a weekend, generally in the winter, have an indoor weekend. Sometimes there's a pool, sometimes there isn't. There'll be quizzes. Again, there'll be live bands. There'll be all sorts of sociable stuff. You often get a guest speaker to come and talk about something interesting. Very often we have trips, outside as well. Nudefest is a good one for that. In fact, it make you laugh. When we had Nudefest first began in another county called Cornwall back in 2007, and we used to do some trips, and we went to the Newquay Zoo. We actually went naked walking around a zoological park, which was great fun. And also a nude visit twice now to the Eden Project, which is a big ecological environmental location in Cornwall, quite well known around the world. So that gives you a flavour. Week by week, there are swims up and down the country. Clubs and individuals that host a swim in a municipal pool. We have clubs, just like you do across the states, where you can become a member. They're a bit like a country club. There'll be a clubhouse with social activities. There'll be a pool. There'll be sports activities. Great place to go. I've been to my own club half an hour away from myself today and had a lovely swim in an indoor pool, I should say. There is an outdoor pool, not open just yet. And come home. What a great way to start my day. Yes. So those are the kind of activities that we do on the events front. I hope that answers your question there.
Yes. Naked zoo trip sounds amazing.
We all wondered what the animals were thinking.
Right.
Yeah.
Did they notice? Were they more aware? I think they probably were.
Incredibly jealous monkeys. Yeah. Come on.
Yes, but normally that kind of fear. Somebody said it the other day in a different context that if you're in the woods, you're walking in the woods, and you have a red jacket and a pair of green trousers and a blue hat, you really do stand out. You walk through the forest with no clothes on, and the animals and the creatures are less aware that you are that human person. So there's lots on that going on.
Even playing field.
Yeah, one thing I noticed you failed to mention about Nudefest, at least according to the website. Did I see axe throwing?
You did.
Okay. Yes. All right. Thought so.
I'm sorry. Yeah, a little bit mad. Have you seen that in action?
I have seen it with clothes on.
With clothes on, yes.
Yeah.
It's in the back of like a flatbed truck. With a cage around it, and quite frankly, you stand at one end and you throw the axe to the other end. I mean, whether you're wearing anything or not wearing anything really makes no difference. It's not out in an open area where people could actually get.
I'm more worried at like axing myself, like accidentally when I throw it ricocheting back, because I'm just the type of person that. But then again, clothes on or not, you're still going to do damage. So
I was going to say a t-shirt wouldn't help you, would it?
Not going to stop it.
Axes do not discriminate.
Axes do not.
For more information on British Naturism, you can check out their website, bn.org.uk. You can follow them on Twitter, where they are at Brit Naturism, and they are also on Facebook, facebook.com/British Naturism.
Why the Podcast is produced by the Professional Production Company. Please be sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts because we're shallow and need constant validation. For more information, you can check out our website, whythepodcast.com. And like everyone else, we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Today's show was recorded and produced by Heidi Hedquist and myself from our world headquarters, located on the second floor of the professional office building, centrally located downtown. Our reluctant executive producers are John Sauvé and Sandy Stone. Our willing producers are Rachel Allen and Randy Jeanette. Our intern is Zach Jackson. This one's for Philippe. Thanks for joining us. Flash, we're coming home.
Nigel, is that you? Are you here, Nigel?